June 6, 1944. The biggest invasion in history. But Hitler, he was asleep. His staff was terrified to wake him. They knew his temper. Hours passed while thousands of soldiers stormed the beaches. When he finally woke, he said something shocking. Something that revealed his biggest mistake and sealed Germany's fate. His generals couldn't believe what they were hearing. What he said that morning would haunt them forever. The morning everything changed. It was June 6, 1944. The sun rose over France. Thousands of Allied soldiers landed on the beaches of Normandy. This was D-Day, the largest invasion the world had ever seen. Boats filled with American, British, and Canadian troops crashed through the waves. Planes roared overhead. Explosions echoed across the coastline. German soldiers on the beaches were caught completely off guard. They fired back desperately, but more Allied troops kept coming. Wave after wave after wave. Back in Germany, Hitler's headquarters was waking up. Phone calls flooded in. Something massive was happening in France. But there was one major problem. Hitler himself was still asleep, and nobody dared to wake him. His staff stood frozen in the hallways, whispering nervously to each other. They stared at his bedroom door. The fate of Germany hung in the balance. But the man in charge? He had no idea what was happening. The dictator who slept in. Hitler had a strange routine. He often stayed up until 4 or 5 in the morning. He would talk for hours with his closest helpers, sometimes about war plans, sometimes just talking about art or history. Then he would sleep until late afternoon. His staff knew this well, and they knew one other thing too. Never wake Hitler unless it is really needed. Hitler's temper was famous. Officers had been yelled at for less. Some had been fired right away. Others had faced worse. So that morning, as reports came in about the invasion, his commanders faced a very hard choice. Wake him and risk his anger, or wait and lose important time. They chose to wait. Hours went by. The Allied forces dug deeper into French land. They took control of the beaches. They moved inland. And Hitler slept peacefully, completely unaware. The delay would cost Germany everything. But what he said when he finally woke up was even worse. The fatal mistake. When Hitler finally woke up around noon, his staff rushed to tell him what was happening. They showed him maps. They explained the situation. Thousands of enemy troops were on French beaches. Hitler listened. Then he said something that shocked everyone in the room. He called it a diversion. He was sure the real invasion would happen at Calais. That is a different part of France further north. Hitler believed Normandy was just a trick to distract German forces from the real attack. His generals tried to explain. The proof was clear. This was not a trick. This was the real invasion. But Hitler would not listen. He had decided months earlier. He had heavily fortified Calais. He kept his best tank divisions there. And he refused to send them to Normandy, even as the battle continued, and his troops begged for help. "Let them come," he reportedly said. "We will crush them at Calais," but Calais never came. And by the time Hitler realized his mistake, it was too late. The tanks that never came. The German soldiers at Normandy were fighting desperately. They needed help. Specifically, they needed tanks. Germany had powerful panzer divisions nearby. These were elite tank units. They could have pushed the Allies back into the sea. But Hitler controlled these divisions personally. Only he could give the order to move them. And he refused. For hours and hours he refused. His commanders sent urgent messages. "We need help now. The enemy is advancing." Hitler's response: "Wait, the real invasion is still coming at Calais." Military historians call this one of the biggest mistakes of the war. By the time Hitler finally agreed to send the tanks, it was late afternoon. Nearly 12 hours had been wasted, and by then the Allies had strong positions. They had anti-tank guns ready. They had planes flying overhead. When the German tanks finally arrived, they were destroyed from the sky. Allied planes took them out one by one. The delay was catastrophic. What could have been a German counterattack became a desperate defense, and it all came down to what Hitler believed that morning. Why Hitler got it wrong. So why was Hitler so sure about Calais? Why did he ignore the clear truth? The Allies ran a brilliant trick called Operation Fortitude. They made fake armies, inflatable tanks, dummy planes, and fake radio messages, all near Calais. They even put General Patton in charge of this fake army. Germany knew Patton. He was their most feared opponent. Hitler's spies saw this huge force. They took pictures. They intercepted radio messages. Everything pointed to Kalle, and Hitler believed it completely. He convinced himself so fully that no amount of evidence could change his mind. This is what makes the story so interesting. Hitler wasn't stupid. He had won many battles by making bold choices. On this day, Hitler's stubbornness became his big mistake. Even when his officers showed him proof, he ignored it. "This is what they want us to think," he said. He trusted his own feelings over the facts. That choice changed the whole war. Hitler, who wanted total control, made a huge error. His generals knew better. Field Marshal Rommel had even predicted it. He had checked the Normandy beaches months earlier. He warned Hitler, "If they come, they will come here." He begged for more soldiers, tanks, and defenses at Normandy. Hitler ignored him. Rommel was overruled. All the resources went to Kalle instead. On D-Day morning, Rommel wasn't even there. He had gone home for his wife's birthday. When he heard the news, he rushed back, but it was too late. Other German commanders were frustrated too. They could see the truth and tried to act. But in Nazi Germany, Hitler made all the decisions. He trusted no one else. This wasn't just about D-Day. Hitler had been overruling his generals for years. Sometimes it worked, often it didn't. On June 6, 1944, his need for total control backfired. While he slept and stuck to his wrong idea, the war slipped away. History was happening on the beaches while Hitler was making Germany lose. By the end of D-Day, over 150,000 Allied soldiers had landed in France. Thousands died on the beaches, but they held their ground. The Germans missed their one chance to push the invasion back into the sea. Hitler's delay had ruined everything. Within weeks, the Allies controlled Normandy. They built huge supply lines. More soldiers came every day. Tanks, guns, and other equipment kept arriving. From there, the Allies started moving across France. Liberation had begun. Hitler could never fix this mistake. The war in the West was basically over. It would still take 11 more months to finish. His generals knew it. Some even started planning to kill him because they saw his leadership was destroying Germany. But Hitler never admitted he was wrong about D-Day. Even as his empire fell apart, he blamed his commanders, traitors, and everyone else except himself. The man who built his whole image as a smart military leader could not face the truth. He had failed completely, and it all came from that one morning when he slept, refused to listen, and said no. The words that sealed Germany's fate. So what did Hitler actually say that morning when he finally woke up? Witnesses say he didn't panic at first. He just dismissed it. "So they've come," he said calmly. Then he said the words that ruined everything. "This is not the real invasion." Those 6 words show everything wrong with Hitler's leadership. His arrogance, his stubbornness, and his refusal to face reality. He had convinced himself so much that he couldn't see the truth even while it was happening in France. By the time he changed his mind, it was too late. Military experts still study this moment today. It's taught in war schools as a lesson in terrible leadership. One man's ego, one mistake, one morning of delay, and the course of World War II changed forever. The beaches of Normandy became the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. And it all started because Hitler slept through history and then refused to believe it when he woke up. Those words still echo in history today. Hitler's reaction when D-Day began changed everything. His answer to the Normandy invasion was disbelief and delay. He said things that showed his big arrogance. His reaction to the Allied attack was dismissive and stubborn. Hitler's orders on D-Day came too late. The commands he gave were based on a wrong idea. There was no speech from Hitler to rally his troops, just silence, sleep, and a terrible mistake. One morning, one man's choice, and everything changed.